DiBiase Jr. continued this morning in federal court. Former MDHS Director John Davis remained on the stand for cross-examination.
Come from money, I come from class. They love the story, they love the past. Won't let a courtroom spoil my dream, cause I got money and I can do anything.
The trial stopped cold. Weeks passed. The courtroom went silent, and one question hung over everything. Would this case ever get back on track when it comes to Ted DiBiase? Then, finally, at the end of February, the doors reopened. A convicted insider took the stand again, a new defense strategist walked into the courtroom, and the judge made a decision that changed the momentum instantly. No more delays, no reset. The trial was back, and our men ready to battle when it comes to this case with Ted DiBiase Jr. All right, and we have that ready. We have it. Wait, sorry. Boom. All right, let's get to it. Before we dive into what happened when the trial resumed, let's reset the timeline. Federal prosecutors say millions of dollars meant for Mississippi families in need, welfare money, was redirected through nonprofit organizations and allegedly fake service contracts. At the center of that accusation, former WWE wrestler Ted DiBiase Jr. Prosecutors claim millions flowed to him through agreements tied to services that never happened. Says he was simply a legitimate contractor. DiBiase says he was simply a legitimate contractor, and standing between those two stories is one man and one man only, our good friend John Davis, Mississippi. There we go. We'll just go with that. There we go. So, like I said, and stand between those two stories is one man, John Davis, the former head of Mississippi's Department of Human Services. Davis already pleaded guilty to fraud and conspiracy. Now he's cooperating with the case and testifying against others. The trial began in early January, but everything stopped when DiBiase's lead attorney suffered a medical emergency mid-trial. The defense asked for time, and then they even asked for a mistrial. The case stalled until now. And if you want to catch more details about that, definitely check out our previous video on the mistrial and why the mistrial happened in detail. Now, we return, and apparently, and when we resumed, the courtroom felt different. And let's take a look. Let's get back to it with what the crowd has to say. So we'll get to that one in a later video. But when the defense stood up, it wasn't the same voice leading the room. It was Eric Herschmann. Now, Eric Herschmann, to some, will be looking familiar. If you know, you know. He wasn't just any replacement attorney. Herschmann is a high-profile lawyer known for handling political charge cases, including serving as an advisor to former President Donald J. Trump. So he served him during his first term, not now. He's not the type brought in for routine legal work. He's brought in when strategy matters. Now, the reason he is brought in is very important, so we need to look into this. When the stakes are high, especially. So why him? Why did they bring a former worker of Donald J. Trump? Well, very simple. First is necessity. The original defense attorney was sidelined by illness, and that's why we need a lawyer for the defense team. Second, familiarity in the case. Herschmann was already deeply connected to the broader welfare scandal in Mississippi. He represented retired NFL quarterback Brett Favre in a related civil case tied to the same investigation. Now, that means he already understood the case. He, for the most part, understood all the evidence, the key players, the politics involving this match, the pressure, and third, this is the big, someone decided to play the horn. So let's just go back. That means he already understood the evidence, the players, the key ones too, the politics, the pressure, and third, and this is the big one, the strategy of the case. Because bringing in Herschmann signals something bigger. The defense is no longer just reacting, they're reframing the story. And the first test of that strategy came immediately when they came back for the case. The first witness after the trial resumed is obviously going to be John Davis. They ended with him in the last time, and they just needed to finish off with John Davis as the witness. And John Davis is also the prosecutor's star witness. Now, the man who already admitted guilt, now he's here, and this is where things get interesting. Most attorneys would attack a witness like Davis aggressively. Herschmann, for some reason, didn't. Instead, he softened the frame. He guided Davis through questions that painted a different picture for the case and for the defense. A bureaucrat under pressure, a man trying to satisfy political expectations, someone who believed, at least at the time, that programs were helping communities. Davis talked about meetings involving political figures, requests for projects, discussion about fundings.
And the welfare fraud trial of Ted DiBiase Jr. continued this morning in federal court. Former MDHS Director John Davis remained on the stand for cross-examination. The defense presented text messages between Davis and nonprofit leaders discussing payments and compliance questions. Davis testified he believed the programs were doing good and no federal official ever said they were illegal. Davis also denied receiving money from DiBiase and maintained that he acted with integrity. We are going to have more updates in later.
So, when asked about his intentions, Davis simply said, "I tried to do my best part." The defense wasn't trying to destroy Davis, they were trying to humanize him. Because if Davis believed these programs were legitimate, then maybe DiBiase believed it too. But prosecutors see Davis very differently. They've already called him the big villain of this whole case, the man who pushed millions through what they say were sham contracts. And now the jury had to process two completely different versions of the same person, villain or bureaucrat caught in a system bigger than himself. Then came the gamble. Herschmann stood before the judge and made his argument. This is separate from Davis. 6 million documents. An injured lead attorney, Gilbert, from prior a few months ago when he got sick. A case too massive to absorb overnight. So Herschmann asked for a 6-month delay or a mistrial. This is them requesting their second mistrial in the year. The message was simple. The trial was moving too fast for the defense, but underneath that argument was something else. They needed time. Time for the defense to fully reshape their approach. Time to control the narrative the way they needed to, and time to regroup. Now, the judge listened, and then everything changed again. Judge Carlton Reeves said no. No mistrial, no extended delay. He told the courtroom restarting would waste massive resources. Finding a new jury would be difficult. It did take him a long time to set up the jury for this trial. I understand that. And the trial had already come too far. Just like that, the defense lost its biggest chance to slow the momentum. The message from the bench was clear. The case is moving forward. This wasn't just the trial resuming this week. This was an attempt to reset the power inside the courtroom. A new defense strategist, a witness trying to explain himself, a judge forcing everything to keep moving forward. And now the prosecution is racing to finish the case because once they're done, the defense gets its turn. And that's where everything could flip storyline-wise. A convicted witness trying to rewrite his legacy, a former wrestler fighting to prove he didn't know the game being played around him, and a new attorney stepping into a trial already in motion. The courtroom is moving again, the clock is running, and now the question isn't just what happened to the money, it's who the jury believes. Understanding what was really happening all along. So, without that, what do you guys think of the return of the Ted DiBiase trial? Did it start with a bang with the mistrial second attempt? Do you think Herschmann is right about having more time reevaluate the case and seeing what would work better than what Gilbert already prepped? Let me know in the comments.